My name is Ernest Obiashaka, a certified project manager, and I'm going to be speaking on the fundamentals of project management. This program is coming to you courtesy of Oak Interlink. Oak Interlink is one of the foremost training companies here in the continent of Africa, and we run an array of professional certification programs, ranging from project management to business analysis, to Lean Six Sigma, to Scrum, and a host of numerous certification programs. Now, so what is project management really about? Let's understand the project management environment. So what is a project? A project is regarded to be a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Now, a project is like an initiative that has these following characteristics. It has a specific purpose. It creates specific results. It has a definite start and finish date. So as we understand it, every business starts out with a project. Every business starts out with the intention to actually work towards meeting a need in the community or addressing a problem or providing a solution. Now, every business starts out that way, with the intention to meet a need, to solve a problem, or to provide a solution. Now, in the course of having to actualize meeting a need, there's need to utilize certain resources. These resources will be required to help to be able to actualize the endeavor to meet that need or to create a solution. That becomes what we call the management of a project. So every project is set up to be able to help create that solution or to create that endeavor to meet that need within a particular community. But in the management of that is where project management comes in, whereby you are able to utilize the required resources to help you actualize that. So project management is not a technical program, it's a managerial program. It requires the management of resources. And project management in itself is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to help meet the project requirements. Now, when we say project management is the application of knowledge, what kind of knowledge? So there's a body of knowledge. So you are not just, applying any kind of knowledge. There's a required body of knowledge. So there's an international body called the Project Management Institute who has put together a body of knowledge in the way you actually manage a project, because a lot of people manage projects, but they don't manage projects professionally, which is very important. So if you wanted to manage a project, it's another thing to manage a project professionally, which is to be able to align with a set standard in the way you manage your project. Not just managing a project based on how you feel, what you think, or what you believe, but it's actually following a set standard in the way you manage your project. It's just like the way some of us cook. When you cook, you might probably cook based on how you feel or what you think. But there are people who cook professionally. They follow what is called a cookbook. They follow what is called a recipe. There's a standard in the way they cook. So they arrive at a consistent outcome, a predictable outcome. So it means there's a set standard in the way they actually go about cooking. So it means they can be able to actualize the same outcome every time when they cook. That is professionalism, because you have people who align with a set standard in the way they cook. Now, there's also a set standard in the way you manage your project. So you don't just manage a project based on how you feel or what you think. There's a standard way to manage your project. In short, the International Standard Organization established that there's a standard way in the way you manage your project. And this standard way was established by the International Standard Organization, or the International Organization for Standardization, which is called the ISO 21500, the ISO 21500. So the ISO 21500 is a standard established by an international standard organization in the way you manage your project. But you are actually expected to not just say, oh, I manage my project according to this set standard. There are third-party verification bodies who are able to verify, to align, to find out if truly align with a set standard in the way you manage your project. So they will vet, they will verify, they will certify to verify if truly you align with a set standard in the way you manage your project based on a certain body of knowledge. No, so there are third-party verification bodies like what we call the Project Management Institute, the International Organization for Project Management, the PRINCE2. These are all bodies that are able to certify you that truly align with a set standard in the way you manage your project, hereby giving you the license to be able to practice this profession as a project management professional. So when it comes to project management, it involves not just managing a project, but managing a project according to a set standard, applying a certain body of knowledge. One of such a body of knowledge is what we call the project management body of knowledge. Now, it looks something like this. Interestingly, we have the 6th edition and the 7th edition today. Now, it's a guide to the project management body of knowledge, popularly called the PMBOK. It's a formal document that establishes the norms, the methods, the practices, the processes in project management. It is actually regarded to be the standard for managing most projects most of the time across many types of industry. Now, it also describes the project management processes, tools, and techniques that are used to manage a project towards a successful outcome. Now, the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide adopts a process-based approach to the management of projects. That is the 6th edition of the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide. But we have the 7th edition today, which is a newer edition of this Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, which is hinged on principles and project domains. Project domains are like similar to what we call project areas, So when it comes to the management of a project, it requires that you are able to align with a set standard. And the project management is accomplished through the application or appropriate application and integration of processes. So we have what is called the process-based approach, and we have what we call the principle-based approach. So in managing every project, there are 2 known methodologies in the way a project is managed. We have what is called the waterfall methodology, and we have what we call the agile methodology. Now, the waterfall methodology is a methodology that people actually talk about such that it follows a predictive approach. It follows a set of processes that arrive at you managing your project to establish a consistent outcome. Now, the waterfall methodology is hinged on the ability to be able to draw knowledge from past projects that have been done. So for a waterfall methodology is for projects that have been done severally. But when it comes to the agile methodology for managing a project, the agile methodology is for projects that have never been done before. The agile methodology is for new projects that have no reference, nothing you can draw from, nothing you can reference. So the agile methodology is majorly for projects that you can't anticipate, you can't predict what will happen. So you need to experiment via what we call prototypes. So you need to approach the management of a project through experimentation by creating what is called prototypes, sampling, or what we call dummies. And from there, being able to learn better how to understand what the client wants so that you can manage the project, ensuring that you adjust, you modify, you are aligning what you're doing to align and suit what the client wants. That is the agile methodology. So there are 2 known methodologies in the way a project is managed: the waterfall methodology and the agile methodology. Now, the waterfall methodology, like I said, is a process-based approach, while the agile methodology is what we call a principle-based approach in the way a project is being managed. So, but the waterfall methodology is such that it emphatically follows a set of processes. There are 49 of these processes, and they are grouped into 5 groups. So it follows a set of processes. There are 49 of them, and they are grouped into 5. Unlike the Agile methodology, which is following a set of principles and values. There are 12 of these principles, and there are 4 of these values. So when we come to talk about the Agile methodology, it's like a time-boxed iterative approach to delivery of products that builds, products or softwares incrementally from the start of the project. Instead of just trying to deliver it all at once at the end, what it does is that it delivers it in bits. It delivers it incrementally. So it's a very, very lovely methodology that introduces an approach that we call the adaptive approach. It means you adapt as you go on. Why? Because it's for a project that experiences consistent changes. It's for a project that will definitely experience consistent changes to the scope of that project. So it helps you manage that project in an appropriate way because it will experience consistent changes. So when the teams actually deliver small increments, they are actually better able to understand the true customer requirements much faster and more accurately within a static written specification, because they are prototyping and learning via what is called iteration approach. Iteration is what we call the ability to get feedback from the samples or prototypes you designed and you presented before the client, to get feedback from it. Now, in having to approach, your project using Agile methodology, Agile in itself requires a framework for expression. Agile cannot be deployed without a framework. One of the most known and popular frameworks is what we call Scrum. Scrum is one of the most known and popular frameworks to enable you to be able to express or deploy Agile. The other frameworks, one of such a framework is called Kanban. Another one is Lean. Another one is what we call DSDM. There's also FDD. There's that FDD means feature development, feature development. So it means as you manage your project, you must be conscious that in deploying the Agile methodology, it requires a framework for expression. So, but today, a lot of people are able to adopt Agile via frameworks like Scrum. So in having to deploy Agile via Scrum, you have to set up a Scrum team that is normally led by someone we call a Scrum Master. So in the course of this entire program, remember the basics is what we are trying to cover, but the entire full program will require us to look at some of these frameworks and see how this methodology called Agile is deployed via frameworks like Scrum, like Kanban, like Lean, and so on and so forth. Good. But when it comes to the waterfall methodology, it's a predictive approach. What do you mean by predictive approach? It means you're able to draw reference from what has been done before, past projects. So you can see that whatever you're about to embark on is similar to what you've done in the past. So you can get templates from there. You can have an idea of what this will look like. So you can be able to anticipate. In short, you can be able to predict that if this looks like this, most likely, my project is going to look like this. If past project costed this amount, most likely my project is going to cost this amount. If past projects took this long, my project is likely to take this long. So it makes it predictable because you have templates, you have references, you have what you can actually look back on to give you an idea, to anticipate, to be able to predict. That's why they call it the predictive approach. And in predicting, you're able to follow the same processes that was done before, and you're able to arrive at, the similar, same example, same outcome or same result in respect to the project you're about to handle. So they call it the predictive approach, which follows a set of processes. But these processes, they are grouped into 5 groups. And when it comes to the processes itself, they are applied to a project. Every project has 10 areas that you must have knowledge of. And in having to apply these processes, these 49 processes, remember, that is if you are following the waterfall methodology, if you are applying these processes, they apply to different areas of a project. Every project has 10 areas that you must have knowledge of. And you have to apply these processes using certain tools and techniques. In the application of these processes, there are certain things you need to impute. There are certain tools you will need to use. There are certain techniques in the way the tools are used, and there are outputs you will really get at the end of the day, which is consistent. That makes it predictable, doesn't it? Good. So the processes are such that we have what is called the project management processes. Now, you might wonder, okay, but I might not be a technical personnel. I mean, if it's a construction project, for example, I'm not a construction engineer. It doesn't matter. This program is a managerial program. It requires the management of resources. So it involves the management of, human resources, material resources, financial resources. So it's a managerial expertise. It's not a technical expertise. So it doesn't matter, even if you don't have the technical expertise, you understand, you can run this program because it cuts across different industries. In short, what makes you a professional is the fact that you're able to manage projects irrespective of the industry. So whether it's the construction industry, whether it's in the entertainment industry, whether it's in the educational industry, whether it's in the oil and gas, you're able to manage any kind of project. Why? Because the processes are the same. It's consistent. It's the same process everywhere in every industry. That's why it's called the project management process. So you are functioning at the managerial level, at the management expertise, not the technical one, the management one. The technical one is what we call the product-oriented processes. The product-oriented processes has to do with the technicality of that particular project. That's not what you are involved in. For example, a construction project, for example. Now, there's the product, which is the building, and the product-oriented processes is handled by the technical people like a civil engineer, like a structural engineer. They are the ones involved in product-oriented processes, which is the building. But you are not involved in product-oriented processes. What you are involved in, project management processes, and the project management processes are the same irrespective of the industry. So there are 49 of them as established, and they are grouped into 5. That is if you are aligning with the waterfall methodology. But if you are following the agile methodology, then you are following the set of principles, and there are 12 of them, and the value system, and there are 4 of those values. Good. So when it comes to the project management processes that we are talking about, because it involves the management of resources. So every project requires you to utilize resources to actualize it, including the human resources who have the technical expertise. You are managing them, you understand? So your job is the management of resources, including human resources, including financial resources, including material resources. You are managing all of that, So the processes involved in having to do that, there are 49 of them, and they are grouped into 5. When we say they are grouped into 5, these are the groups they fall under. So we have the initiating processes, the processes that require you to initiate a project, to be able to actually gain authorization before you embark on a project. You need to gain authorization before you embark on a project. You also have what we call the planning processes. It means while you have initiated the project, you need to sit down, think through everything that is going to be done on paper, to be able to think through everything in respect to every action that you need to carry out. What would be the consequences? Why? Because actions have consequences. So you need to think through every action before you carry them out. Why? It gives you an idea, particularly of what to expect, what to do, to help you to be able to actualize that objective. So it means you sit down to draft a plan of everything you're going to do on paper before you do them. So that plan is what you take to the field to go and execute, to go and implement. So there's the implementation or execution set of processes where you execute your plan. And in executing your plan, it means you align with what has been, stated in your plan. You don't execute anything outside your plan. Why? Because if they bring anything for you to execute, you've not thought it through. So you don't know the consequences of such. So the idea here is to be able to work towards actualizing all that is in your plan because you've thought it through. But there might be cases that things might not go according to plan. So you might have situations whereby things might want to go out of control. So you need to be able to monitor what is going on in order to have control over your project. So they are what we call monitoring and controlling processes. And it's like an airplane taking off from the tarmac of an airport, So there's a control tower that monitors the aircraft to ensure it arrives at its place of destination. So it keeps monitoring it, because when it hits the sky, there's what we call turbulence. And once there's turbulence, it will shift off course. It might have, the coordinates might have been entered into the airplane at the beginning when it took off from the tarmac. But you realize that there's the communication with the control tower that notifies the pilot to re-enter the coordinates that would take it to its destination. So if the plane does not have good communication with the control tower, it will go off course and get missing. So it might not arrive at its destination. So also there's a plan, which is the set destination for your project. So there's need to continually communicate with your team to ensure they are aligning with the plan which you've put together, so that they can move on along with what has been planned and arrive at the destination, which is the objective and agenda of the project in the first place. And then finally, you can close out your project. Closing out your project is not just terminating the project and ending it, but also to document all that has been learned in the course of the project, so that you can be able to pass on such knowledge to people who will manage some similar projects in the future, and they can learn from you. Also, you want to also terminate every contract you've entered into, whereby, those contracts were carried out by vendors. But once the project is over, it's best to terminate all those contracts. Don't leave them open, so that they don't hold you to ransom, even in subsequent projects with the same terms and conditions in your previous projects. So you must ensure that all contracts are closed as the project is ending. Very important. Now, in the management of your project, remember, you are applying these processes. There are 49 of them, and they are grouped into this 5. They are applied to different areas of a project. Every project has different areas. There are 10 areas of every project that you must have knowledge in. At least you must have basic knowledge in, So there's the project integration management area. There's the project scope management area. There's a project schedule management area, which is having to do with managing the time of your project. There's the project procurement management area, stakeholder management area, risk management area, communication management. Have you noticed they are all talking about management? So there's the management areas of your project. There's also what we call the project resource. So there's the management of all the resources. Resource management area. There's a quality management area. There's the cost management area, which has to do with the costing and budgeting of your project. These are all areas of a project you must manage. You must have basic knowledge of all these areas. Just like you have a medical doctor, you have general practitioners who actually have general knowledge of the entire body. So your body has different areas. It has the eye, it has the teeth, it has the leg, it has the intestines, it has the stomach, it has the liver, it has the kidney. There are different areas of your body. And there's the general practitioner who must have basic knowledge of all of these areas of the body, so that regardless of whoever comes with any problem from any part of this body, they're able to diagnose and tell what the problem is. So also they all have basic knowledge of all the areas of the body. You must also have knowledge of all the areas of a project and have a basic knowledge to be able to manage each of these areas. But remember, there are people who are also specialized in these areas. So you have people who don't just have basic knowledge, but they have advanced, they have specialized knowledge in these areas. So some people, after managing or acquiring expertise to manage an entire project, decide to specialize. Just like you have a medical doctor who goes further to specialize in an area of the body to be able to have advanced knowledge, to be able to specialize in managing a specific area of the body. So there are people who are specialized in different areas of a project. So, but there's the project manager who has general knowledge of every area, who knows about every area of the project and has basic knowledge of all these areas. So in the course of the full program, you will actually learn about each of these areas, what they entail, how to manage each of these areas one by one. Good. So in the course of managing these projects, you must understand that your processes are applied to each of these areas one by one. And as you apply these processes, there are certain tools you will need to use to apply them. There are certain techniques in the application of these tools, which will give you a desirable outcome in the course of managing this project, So it's important that we understand that project management is an expertise, is a skill that you must acquire to be able to manage the actualization of an objective or an initiative of an organization. It's different from operations management. And people tend to mix them. They think project management is operations management. They're different. Project management is always the setup of a business to actually create a given product or service. But once that product or service has been created via a project and the management of that project to actualize the creation of that product, it is now handed over to an operations management system. The operations management system is involved in reproducing the created project or product via a project. So when it comes to recreating, it means in mass, to get it into the hands of so many people, to produce it in mass. That's where operation comes in. The operation management system is to sustain the continual reproduction of that unique product created via a project. So the operation system is to ensure the continual reproduction of that unique product day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, till over time, the product's life begins to wind down. Every product has a life cycle. It has a lifespan. So the product's life will wind down after some time. And once the product's life is winding down, it will begin to lose relevance, to begin to lose importance in the market. And then obviously the business needs to reintroduce a new product. So in creating that new product, a project will need to come into play again. And once that project comes into play, the creation of that unique product is a project, and the management of that project is the project management we're talking about. And then a project manager comes in to ensure the management of that project is done to ensure that it is meeting these 4 objectives. What are the 4 objectives? It's ensuring that it is able to complete the project on time, within the required budget, within the scope of what is expected, and to fulfill all the stakeholders' requirements. In the management of every project, these are the 4 objectives a project manager is working towards actualizing. Now, there's a lot to say, but within the short time we have, we can't say everything. But please remember there's the opportunity to undergo the full and entire program, which is commencing this August. In short, for 4 Saturdays, we're going to be having this program run concurrently for 4 Saturdays, starting from 9 in the morning through till 4. If you're interested, I will encourage that you register and be part of this program. In short, for those of us who probably will want a recording of today's session, just to listen in, maybe you came in late and you were not opportune